Hi, this is Steve Rybrook with Ledgeview Partners, and this video is to show you the really exciting gap to goal feature we rolled out to just about everybody in October of 2017. So let's get into the details here. So again, most of this release is focused on this gap to goal analysis. So I'll just kind of go through the agenda here, and then we'll spend a lot of time right in CRM showing you some of the stuff. So I also want to point out, besides this video, there is a document that kind of lists out all of these details. So if you're more of a, hey, I'd rather see the details, read about the details, document 270 is right in CRM. So you can pull that up, print it off if you want, and it will go through this, kind of step by step for you on paper. So what do you need to know about gap to goal before you actually get into it? So just a couple things that are really, really important as far as the functionality of this is, if you think about gap to goal, some of you may actually set your goals, but there might be a few products that you sell that actually, accumulate a fair amount of either volume or gross profit that you really don't set goals for. So that could skew up analysis when we're comparing your goal to what's really happening to tell you what your gap is. So maybe, I'll just throw out an example here, maybe freight, or there's a few products that are associated with freight, and you don't do anything with your goals for freight, but obviously if you're charging customers freight and that is feeding into CRM, there's actual numbers there. Well, if we compare, your gap to goal analysis compares your goals to your actuals, well, then it's just going to be off. So you have the ability to call us, call support, and we will go in and check a couple products that you do not want included, and then they just won't be included when we're analyzing your order history. All right, what else is on this list? You get to set up the gap to goal analysis you care about. So the system is very configurable. So as an example, you might want to see how your lubricants department is doing on a gap to goal basis. You might want to see how a certain salesperson is doing. You might want to see how a certain salesperson is doing for lubricants. You might want to see how your overall company is doing. So there's tons of configuration. You just go in one time, set up what you care about, and then the system will scrunch all the data for you. And again, I'm going to show you all of this. The other thing on this list is opportunity type. Opportunity type is very important. Many folks have very basic opportunity types. It's either blank, it's either called new business, or possibly share a wallet business. But there are some variations out there. So we really need to know how those map to, like, what would you consider all your business on your pipeline? What opportunity types would you consider share a wallet? Which ones would you consider new business? So there's a step in here that you'll want to reach out to our support desk to make sure that we're mapping your opportunity types correctly. And again, I'll show you that. Let's see, what's next? Obviously, you have to have set goals for this to be of any value, right? We can't do gap to goal analysis if you don't have goals. Also, brand is an option. So you think of brand, you might think of Chevron or Shell or your in-house brand. Well, the only way that can work, because you have brand on your opportunities, so you have to make sure you're doing that. And then you need a corresponding product category in your goals and your actual data. And they have to be spelled the same. So if you had a brand called Shell and you set goals down to the product category level of Shell, well, then we can do that comparison. We can do that analysis for you. If you don't have that, I mean, it's just an option in here. I don't know how many people are going to want to do this gap to goal analysis down to that level, but if you do and your system is set up properly, by all means, go for it. So what data are we actually looking at when we're scrunching all of this information for you to tell you how you're doing on your gap to goal? Well, obviously, we use your goals. We use your order history data, which is your actuals. And then we also look at your pipeline. What's in your opportunities? And the important thing about your pipeline, which I've been preaching for many, many years now, is the importance of the estimated close date on your opportunities and the accuracy of your guesses. So your estimated volume and your estimated gross profit. So I realize those are guesses, but keep them updated. And if that estimated close date is not correct, if you're not diligent on keeping that accurate, then a lot of this data is going to be skewed, because we look at that date to figure out prorated numbers for your pipeline. So your opportunities are really important for this calculation to be of value. So hopefully you've got good goals. Actual should be good. They're coming from your accounting system, and you're diligent about keeping your pipeline accurate. If you have all of that, this gap to goal tool is going to be awesome. All right, so what's next? So there's a couple things you're going to have to do just one time. And I suppose when I say one time, as things change, you might want to go in there periodically if there's any tweaks that have to be made. So one time, call our support team to just make sure that we've mapped your opportunity types correctly to those that you consider share a wallet, those that you consider new, and those that should be bundled into all business. So the way that looks, I'll just kind of pull over just an example of this. Hopefully this shows up on here. So this is the way in our little test library, the way I have this set. If for some reason there's a blank opportunity type, I want all of those to be included when I'm analyzing my all business. And my new business is considered all, and share a wallet. That all rolls into when I run an all report. But I only want my new business opportunity types to feed into my new business gap to goal report, and my share a wallet opportunity type to feed into my share a wallet. So our system is set up very straightforward. This is how a lot of yours will look. But some of you, I know, have been very creative with your opportunity types, right? So if they're not spelled this exact way, or you have 3 or 4 other ones, we'll just need to know how to map them for you. So then when you're running your gap to goal analysis, we'll know which opportunities to consider when you're running the report. So that's that. So that's a one-time call to make sure those are mapped correctly. And then also, if you know of a couple products that you want skipped when we're analyzing your actuals, let us know and we'll check them. All right, then one other one-time thing is you just go in and set up all of the gap to goal configurations that you want. So again, I mentioned earlier, I want to run a company gap to goal report. I want to run a salesperson gap to goal report, for an individual salesperson. So the beauty of this is it's not like you have to do this every time and then run a report. You're going to set this up once, and then every night the system is just going to scrunch the data for you. And if you don't need the data for a couple of weeks, doesn't matter. Maybe you just don't have to look at it, because I would think early on in the year, you're probably not going to use this data quite a bit, but maybe by the time you get to the end of the first quarter, you probably start talking about gap to goal. And as it gets, toward the third quarter, right? Hey, how are we doing? Are we going to hit our goal? So obviously from, month 3 till 12, you're probably going to be analyzing this maybe once a month, once every couple of weeks, but the data will always be as of the last time it was ran, which again, it runs every night. So there we go. The system builds your data every night, and then you just go into sales and then the gap to goal data, and it's just a view of all these numbers, and it shows you, how you're doing. And if you want to drill a little bit deeper, you can actually click on that record, and it'll open up a nice form kind of showing you, all the data. So with that being said, let's flip over and take a look at a couple things. And let's start with a couple of the setups that we talked about. So I think I already talked about setting up the mapping of your gap to goal or your opportunity types. So that's done. I went in and I had one product coded as like the exclusion. So I'll just show you where that shows up for you. So you call us, we'll basically check the box so you know which ones aren't going to be included. But if you ever wanted to see that list, if you go into sales and you go into products, typically you're looking at a list of all of your active products, right? This is just going to be, okay, come on. Try a little refresh here. All right, there we go. So I went into my view of products excluded from gap to goal. And this is just the one product. It probably doesn't make sense. I just grabbed one randomly, but this would probably be like a miscellaneous product that you sell a lot of, or maybe like I mentioned, a couple freight items. anything that might distort your gap to goal because you don't include these products when you're thinking of setting your goals. So you just want them excluded when we're analyzing your actuals. Okay, so again, one-time deal done. And then the last thing, that's just a one-time setup, and this is where the power is if I go into sales and in this gap to goal configuration, there's just a couple views. There's like all of the gap to goal configurations, and then if you just wanted to look at mine, there's the my active ones. You could do that as well. So this might start out a little intimidating, but it makes a lot of sense. So you can just say, I want to run a company gap to goal report. So you just say, I want to run a company gap to goal report, and I want to analyze overall all business. And we also let you enter a percentage, how you think business is going to go last year versus this year. And then we'll kind of make an adjustment. So we look at history, and if you think business is going to go up 5%, we'll adjust that when we're doing these calculations. So it looks like I came up with about 13 different gap to goal analyses that I wanted the system to run every night. So I can do a department one. And I said, look, I want to do my lubricants department, and I want to analyze, overall all the business. But I also want to analyze my lubricant department, just the new business gap to goal. As I scroll down a little bit further, I want to run a salesperson gap to goal report just to see how Brad's doing on his overall business. And by the way, I think his business should be going up about 5%. And I want this run every day. So it's basically nightly. So every day this is going to run. The other option here, by the way, is you can just run it every Sunday. So if you only need this data once a week, maybe save a little processing time. And then the last level here, I can go a little bit deeper down to the salesperson department level. So for lubricants, Brad, how's he doing overall? Steve, how's Steve doing overall for lubricants? And then how's Steve's goal versus actual for new business and share a wallet? And then here's where I got really carried away, for the lubricants department, for Steve, for his Chevron gap to goal analysis, how's he doing? So I just set these up once. I just have to hit the new button. And I just go in here and I'm creating a new record. So is it a company gap to goal report? Is it a department, salesperson, and salesperson department? And depending on which of these I pick, if I pick salesperson department, well, then it's going to ask me, well, what's the department and what's the salesperson? And then optionally, if I do want to do it at the product category level, I could. Remember, that has to map with your brands. Report type. This is where you do all new business or share a wallet. For those of you setting goals, you know all about this. So I could just pick all. And then do I think there's going to be an increase or decrease from last year? And then frequency. That's that daily or every Sunday. So I'm not even going to save that. But that's what you do to set them up. Pretty simple. And then every night, the system is going to create data. And you could go in at any point in time and go into sales and go into your gap to goal data. And I don't care to save that information. So at first, this is going to be very overwhelming. But once you get used to this, you will appreciate it. So this is a view of all of the data. So every night, I would basically build, in my example there, 13 records are going to be calculated every night for all of those different combinations. You might get to the point where once you get used to this, the answers that you need are right here on this very, very screen. Because this right here is what your volume gap to goal is. And this is going to show you the percentage that you achieved so far and what you need to get into your pipeline to hit your goal and how many additional volume opportunities you need to hit your goal. So negatives are really good. You're probably not going to see them until the end of the year when you're getting closer to hitting your goal. So we do the same calculations by gross profit. And as I scroll over, there's tons of other numbers on here, but not to be alarmed. We put this in a pretty format. I just like to put these all in these views for you because many of you get very analytical and you want to sort it, export it, whatever. So now it's all right here to do whatever you want with. But as an example, let's grab one where the numbers are somewhat valid. Again, this is test data. So let's see how my department, lubricants, let's say new business is doing. Let's say Is this a good one? Lubricants, new bid. Let's just open this up. So I'm just going to double click this, just like anything else in CRM. Just open up the record. So this is a little bit easier to read. So the first couple lines are telling me, okay, as of October 4th, you had a department gap to goal. You're analyzing lubricants, and you're analyzing new business. Right? So pretty simple. So this column is all about your volume gap to goal, and this column is all about your gross profit. So the calculations are exactly the same. They just either use volume or gross profit. So I'll just go through the volume one, realizing that if you care about gross profit, it's the same thing. It's just over here. So what are we doing? We're looking at how are you doing for volume so far year to date. So I'm looking at your order history for the lubricants department for just new business. And remember, I'm excluding any of those products that we said we didn't care about. Then I'm also going to look at the most recent 12 months and come up with a daily average. And then I realize that there's 88 days left in the year. So I'm going to estimate that I'm going to get this many more gallons by the end of the year. All right. But wait a minute. We said that we think business is going to go up about 5%. So even though I look back historically to get this number, I'm going to just adjust it by that 5%. So here's another number that's really important. So I've got so far this year, what did I do? And what do I think I'm going to do the rest of the year based on history? And now the third piece is what's in my pipeline. So here are my prorated, remember prorated gallons are important, my prorated open opportunity volume for all of my lubricant new business opportunities. Now, looking at the data in CRM, based on all of my pipeline data, I only win about 28% of those. So even though I have 300,000 gallons in the pipeline, I'm only going to, based on history, I predict I'm going to get 87,000 of that. So 87, we got the 550, and we have the 185, and we have a goal of 455. And there's what we think we projected based on the numbers up above. So there's our gap. And so here's how much we've achieved so far. So we're only at about 19% of our goal. So what do I need now in my pipeline? What prorated dollars do I need, or volume do I need? And there it is, based on these numbers. And based on the fact that there's only about 3 months left, here's what I really need in my pipeline to hit my goal. This is the average deal size based on history again. So I need about 262 new business lubricant opportunities to hit my goal. If you forget any of these calculations, I'm just going to remind you, if you scroll down a little bit further on the screen, we've detailed out exactly how we do this. So you don't have to go to another document for this. Just scroll down. You'll see it every time on here. So if you wondered, how do we get this? Year-to-date volume and year-to-date gross profit represents your actual numbers so far this year, right? I'm looking at your order history, and on and on and on. So there's just some of the math, how we actually came up with it for some of this stuff. So that is it. It is a very powerful tool. Some of you are going to probably appreciate it more than others, because I know many of you were doing this manually, and that would have taken many, many hours for all of these different combinations. Now you set it up once, probably in an hour, and just let the system give you the numbers you need, and then just look at them whenever you want. So that is it. Hopefully you're able to take advantage of this new gap to goal feature in our CRM. Thanks for listening. Have a good one.